China is likely to grant its first commercial license for 5G this year. What effects will that have on China's economy? And U.S. President Donald Trump has accused Google of assisting the Chinese military with its applications in AI. What does this tell us about the growing Sino-American competition in this sector? Welcome to The Point, an opinion show coming to you from Beijing. I'm Li Xin. China could issue its first commercial 5G license this year. China's Minister of Industry and Information Technology, Huawei, made the announcement at an annual economic forum in southern China's Hainan province that concluded on Friday. He also said some time would be needed for a nationwide network of 5G base stations to be built before large-scale commercialization could be possible. Now, China is, however, expected to start the pre-commercial use of 5G in the second half of this year. Meanwhile, Chinese telecom giant Huawei released its annual report on Friday, indicating 14% of its revenue last year went to R&D, making it number 5 globally on the 2018 EU Industrial R&D Investment Scoreboard. What difference will commercialized 5G make to China's economy? What does Huawei's record high R&D input tell us about the company and its future? For more, I'm joined from Shanghai by Lu Gang, CEO of TechNode, and from New York, Scott Schober, CEO of Berkeley Varitronics Systems. Gentlemen, welcome to The Point. Now, as I said, the Chinese minister talked about the possibility of issuing China's first commercial 5G license at before the end of this year. Does that mean, Mr. Lu, does that mean that China will by then have a nationwide 5G network?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's very exciting news to the industry and then probably in the future to the to the consumer in China, because the first license if issued, then means lots of new business opportunities, and also I think for the consumers we're going to face a huge probably new entertainment industry can change.
Let's take a listen to what the Executive Vice President of China Mobile, Li Huidi, talked about in terms of China's 5G, or his company's 5G plan. Let's take a listen.
We've launched a 5G plus plan. First is 5G plus 4G, since we believe that coordination will be crucial in the future. Secondly is 5G plus new technologies such as AI, big data, and cloud computing. And finally, 5G plus an ecosystem which will provide better customer service.
Well, it's actually estimated by a global body on network operators that China's digital 5G ecosystem is going to add something like $800 or $900 billion US to the Chinese economy in 2023. So, Scott, how big of a deal is that?
Well, I think it's a huge deal, and I think this is a race to build out these 5G networks. And clearly, whichever countries invest in that the most, and clearly China is doing that right now, it's going to give them a very, very strong foothold. I'm not as optimistic as far as the build-out and the speed of it. I don't think it's going to happen as fast as everybody's claiming. There's going to be little pockets of build-out, and this will be reminiscent of looking back at 4G LTE technology, and then certainly 3G. We saw pockets in certain cities and certain areas, which makes sense. But I think clearly China is spending an enormous amount of money investing in the hardware. The operators are on board. And now I think it's just a matter of time over the next few years as we see this rapid deployment and adoption to it. I just think the adoption will be a little bit slower than people think, because if we look at 4G right now, 4G technology works really good, and 5G technology is pretty close to 4G. So there needs to be more development of apps and the interconnection, that this mobile IoT, that's what's going to start changing it, and I think driving consumer demand to it much quicker.
Okay, Mr. Lu, are we getting really overly excited about this 5G, this whole 5G hype? Is it because I also heard Mr. Ren Zhengfei, the founder of Huawei, talking about don't expect too much, although it promises to deliver certain things, but because of different circumstances and technical bottlenecks, the actual speed of the signals traveling in these pipes might not reach the level that they're designed to.
Yeah, I think it's still, I think we can, everybody talk about 5G, but still, I think for 2019, it's basically still like a testing field. We're still testing. We have lots of trials that are happening in 2019, and probably maybe in 1 or 2 years, we're going to see like, the scalable or mass, market come to the 5G kind of network. But I would say because I heard that because we know maybe it took years for 4Gs to really come down to the market. But because everybody believes in like China speak. I'm pretty sure. So maybe I think it's going to come in maybe 1 or 2 years, but maybe it's going to be move faster than we thought because the Chinese government spends so much money into this like the new era of the telecoms market, and also we see. We see the Chinese companies, including like Huawei or including all the phone manufacturers. I think the whole industry probably going to move much faster than we thought.
Scott, what is your thought on this? I mean, the Chinese market is definitely much bigger than, say, the South Korean economy. And although the South Korean wants to be the first country to roll out a 5G smartphone, how much of a difference will size make to the whole picture? It is estimated that China will be the world's largest 5G market with about 460 million users of the next generation network by 2025. That's bigger than the combination of the US and EU.
Certainly, China is going to devastate this market because they've got such a good footprint now. I think a lot of it's going to be dependent upon companies that drive the price down of the phones. These initial phones that are coming out, when we look at the Galaxy and many others that they're announcing, some of these phones are $1,200 to $2,000, and that's kind of normal when a phone first comes out, but they have no coverage. So it's going to be hard at first to get any consumer to afford that. As things get to scale, in the next couple of years, that price will plummet on the hardware, and then yes, certainly I think China will have dominance there and do much better. A lot is still going to unfold, I think, and it's going to still be driven, in my thought, by the data usage. It's not as much just people talking to people on mobile devices anymore. It's really the use of big data. That coupled with artificial intelligence, that's what the power of 5G is when we think of autonomous vehicles, robotics, automation. That's where 5G is going to be very, very powerful, and it will give countries such as China dominance there in many different sectors. And I think a lot of thought is that.
How big will the gap, if there is one, between China and the United States in that area, Scott?
I think that's a little bit of a difficult one to answer because of the hard stance, certainly, that both countries are taking now. And I think a lot of that, the backbone is surveillance. There is a strong fear still, some of it certainly exaggerated, and some of it there's some truth to it, of Chinese spying on U.S. and the use of this technology. Again, remember, this is a more global standard. So anybody that dominates this technology could use this for mass surveillance, could use this for cyber hacks much easier than the current 4G technology. That, of course, is very concerning. So the U.S. is throwing out a lot of accusations there. Again, I think some might have some truth, and some of it are exaggerated, perhaps even made up.
Okay,
the
crucial
depends how that unfolds.
Yeah,
certainly.
the crucial factor here, and I believe we already mentioned, is the company Huawei. Basically, Huawei released their 2018 annual report earlier today, and it is very interesting. One of the top executives said in that report that companies who choose to work with Huawei will be the most competitive in the 5G era and gain an advantage of the next wave of growth in the digital economy. Lu Gang, how do you look at this statement? Is that an overstatement, or is that pretty much, are they sure about what they're saying?
Yeah, I think it's the first. I think Huawei is trying, to tell us like, it's all about technologies, right? So, Huawei has spent so much money in, into the R&D research, and also they're going to spend even more money, into the field. So I think it's, I think basically that's telling us, the market is actually driven by the technologies, nothing else. And Huawei is the really committed to this market, and so they want to spend more money, and of course, they want to drive the technology, far advanced.
Yeah, despite all the money that Huawei says it has put over these years into R&D, the most recent news accusing Huawei of concern of posing risk is the UK, a UK report by the Huawei Cybersecurity Evaluation Center Oversight Board, which says that it has found further significant technical issues in Huawei's engineering processes, leading to new risks in the UK telecommunications network. Huawei, in response, has said that the 2019 Oversight Board report details some concerns about Huawei's software engineering capacity. We understand these concerns and take them very seriously. A high-level plan for the program has been developed, and we will continue to work with UK operators and the National Cybersecurity Centre during its implementation to meet the requirements created as cloud, digitalization and software-defined everything become more prevalent. Scott, is there an answer to this dilemma? Is this a black or white or yes or no question? Can it be worked out?
Well, it certainly can be worked out, and I think Huawei's stance is they're going to spend money, and a lot more money, to improve this process, to make things more secure, and I think that's important. I've even seen this in the past. We sell propagation equipment to build out the cell sites, and one of our customers is Huawei. In the past, when they're rapidly deploying and building out things, they spend a lot of money, they hire great talent, and I think the same thing has to be done here, but on a much grander scale. But they really need to convince people that it's gonna be secure. And I think a lot of people, with all the fears of cyber hacks on the increase, are going to be closely monitoring this. So they need to spend money in the right areas. And that's what's really important here.
Mr. Liu, the final question to you. As I said, it was ranked, Huawei was ranking #5 globally on the EU Industrial R&D Investment Scoreboard for 2018. 14% of its revenue went to R&D. What does that mean for the company in its future? And do you think they are putting the right amount of money into security issues?
Yeah, I think first of all, I think the statement from like UK, I think it makes sense, because I think every country we need, I think we need concern about the data, because we are talking about 5G. Because the 5G means like the big data, and also the data is not just to do with like the phone communication, it's to do with IoT, Internet of Things. Because all data probably will build it on top of 5G network. So data security is probably the top issues everybody should concern. But I think I totally agree with the another speakers. I think the Huawei is trying to spend more money. They have to spend more money to basically to convince everyone. Say, hey, we have technologies. We want to protect the data for everyone. And so I think it's a good sign. But I think it still need to take time for Huawei and also for the industry to basically to reckon on each other.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to leave it there. Lu Gang, CEO of TechNode, and from New York, Scott Schober, CEO of Berkeley Varitronics System.